Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in because we're about to go on a seriously fascinating scientific journey together. Our mission today, we are going to completely shatter the, let's be honest, kind of unsexy, outdated stigma surrounding the adorable, wrinkly little prune. We're going to dig into some cutting-edge clinical science that takes this humble fruit and elevates it to a whole new level. Seriously, get ready to have your mind blown by what this little powerhouse can actually do for your body. Think about it for a second. When you hear the word prune, what immediately pops into your head? We all know the stereotype, right? It's that dusty, crinkled bag sitting way back in your grandparents' pantry, treated strictly as, a mild digestive aid for older folks. But what if I told you that this reputation is actually the ultimate Trojan horse? Hiding right behind that boring facade is a nutritional profile so complex and honestly so powerful that top researchers are completely rethinking its role in human health. Okay, let's dive into this. We need to look at this old myth versus the incredibly exciting, scientifically validated reality. Now, yes, prunes help with digestion. We are definitely not denying that. But to view them just as a laxative is literally missing the entire picture. Modern clinical trials are revealing that this whole food intervention is actually a massive heavy hitter for some of our most critical biological functions. We are talking about genuine, measurable improvements in bone density, brilliant blood sugar regulation, and a totally remarkable ability to fight systemic inflammation.
All right, moving into section 1, the blood sugar surprise, defying the sweetness.
To really understand this, we've got to address the elephant in the room right out of the gate. Prunes are sweet. They naturally contain about 15 grams of sugar per serving, so anyone who is even remotely health conscious is probably bracing for a massive blood sugar roller coaster. But look at this number, 29 to 53. That is the surprisingly low glycemic index or GI score of a prune. To put that into perspective for you, eating a serving of prunes actually causes a lower glycemic response in your body than eating a slice of plain bread or a bowl of white rice. Despite that 15 grams of sugar, they absolutely do not cause a rapid hike in your blood sugar levels. So you're probably wondering, how on earth does a sweet dried fruit pull off this kind of metabolic magic trick? Well, the secret lies in a fascinating little compound called sorbitol. Technically, sorbitol is a natural sugar alcohol. When it enters your digestive system, your body simply cannot absorb it quickly. Actually, think of it less like a sugar and more like a natural brake pedal for glucose. Instead of rushing into your bloodstream all at once, which is what forces your pancreas into a massive, exhausting insulin dump, it just takes its sweet time, slowly making its way through your digestive tract. And it gets better. When you combine that slow-moving sorbitol with the dense web of soluble fiber that's naturally packed into prunes, this wonderful biochemical reaction happens. Together, they create this happy, gel-like substance right there in your stomach. This gel literally, physically slows down the rate at which your stomach empties. Because of that, the glucose enters your blood at a tiny, highly controlled trickle. Not only does this keep your insulin completely stable, but research shows it can actually increase adiponectin. That's a vital hormone that regulates your blood sugar and helps completely prevent that dreaded afternoon energy crash. It's a real game changer. Which brings us to section 2, gut health and inflammation, the inside-out transformation. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the biological journey doesn't just stop in the stomach. When we travel further down into the microbiome, an incredible chain reaction kicks off. Scientists call this the gut-bone axis. You see, when you eat prunes, the fiber and these unique plant compounds called polyphenols travel down to your colon, where they basically throw a massive feast for your microbiome. They specifically enrich these really beneficial, happy bacteria with crazy names like Lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. These well-fed bacteria then get to work producing short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. These SCFAs circulate through your entire body and act like a powerful systemic fire extinguisher, lowering chronic inflammation. And here is the absolute kicker. Because chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers of bone breakdown, putting out that inflammatory fire directly protects your skeleton. And the anti-inflammatory power doesn't even stop with the microbiome. We always hear about blueberries being the ultimate, undisputed king of antioxidant foods, right? Well, prunes pack a massive antioxidant punch that scores more than twice as high as blueberries. Yeah, you heard that right. And they score a whopping 7 times higher than fresh plums. This is all thanks to crazy high concentrations of chlorogenic and neochlorogenic acids. These powerful polyphenols act like tiny vacuums, neutralizing free radicals in your body, and they've been proven in clinical trials to significantly lower inflammatory markers like CRP. Let's move to Section 3, the secret to bone health, building bones of steel. This is the ultimate payoff of everything we've talked about so far. All of this magnificent gut health, the inflammation reduction, the blood sugar stability, it all culminates in preserving your skeletal system. And the scientific consensus on this is growing incredibly fast. Just take it from Dr. Taylor Wallace. He's a prominent researcher who reviewed dozens and dozens of clinical studies on dried plums and bone density. After looking at all the data, he concluded, quote, "Prunes have a unique nutrient and dietary bioactive profile and are suggested to exert beneficial effects on bone. So this isn't just some old folk remedy anymore. It is an established, rock-solid biological intervention that clinical researchers are taking very, very seriously." And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how this works at the cellular level. Right now, inside your body, you have a constant, endless tug of war happening between two types of cells. On one side, you have osteoblasts. These are the builders. They're constantly working to create new, strong bone tissue. On the other side, you have osteoclasts. These are the breakers, constantly dismantling old bone. Well, prune polyphenols perform this kind of cellular magic. They actually enhance the function of your bone-building osteoblasts while simultaneously suppressing the bone-breaking osteoclasts. They literally tilt the biological scale so that your bone formation exceeds your bone breakdown. And the clinical data backing this up is seriously heavy-hitting. Check out the results from the landmark 12-month Penn State Prune study, which was led by the distinguished professor Dr. Mary Jane D'Souza. Her team evaluated postmenopausal women, which is a demographic that is highly susceptible to rapid bone density loss. Over the course of a whole year, the control group, the women who eat no prunes, lost 1.1% of their hip bone density. But the group that ate just 50 grams of prunes a day, they experienced 0% loss, completely halted. Eating prunes essentially froze their bone density right in place, preserving both the mass and the structural strength of their bones. No way, right? Just from a dried plum? So, Section 4, dosage, risks, and takeaways, how to eat them safely. So, the crucial point is, if you're feeling inspired to go grab a bag of prunes right now, we need to lay out some actionable advice so you know exactly how to use this superfood without any negative side effects. The clinically effective dose for protecting your bones and heart is 50 to 100 grams daily. That works out to about 5 to 12 prunes. However, and this is a big however, there is a kidney warning. Prunes are very high in potassium. Now, normally, that's a fantastic boost for lowering blood pressure, but if you happen to have a rare kidney disease and your doctor has you on a strict low-potassium diet, you absolutely must consult them first. Lastly, let's talk about acrylamide. A very small amount of this chemical can form during the plum drying process, but honestly, if you're genuinely worried about dietary acrylamide, studies suggest you should be avoiding thick, dark roasted potato chips and french fries long before you ever stress over a handful of prunes. To seamlessly and safely introduce prunes into your daily routine, just follow these 3 simple steps. First, start small. Eat just 2 to 3 prunes a day. Remember those complex carbohydrates and that slow-moving sorbitol we talked about earlier? Yeah, if you rush it, the bacteria in your colon will absolutely feast on those unabsorbed carbs way too quickly, and that's going to cause some pretty uncomfortable intestinal gas and bloating. Second, build up gradually over a few weeks until you hit that clinical dose of about 5 to 6 prunes daily. And third, pair them up. Because prunes work so incredibly well through that gut-bone axis, eating them alongside fermented foods like yogurt or kefir can actually help prime your gut microbiome for maximum absorption and benefit. Which leaves us with this final thought. Today, we've seen how this incredible, totally underestimated fruit completely stabilizes your blood sugar, fights systemic inflammation from the inside out, cultivates a thriving, happy gut microbiome, and literally halts bone density loss in its tracks. I'd say it has completely shed its old, dusty reputation, wouldn't you? So the next time you're hit with that afternoon craving for a sweet snack, you have to ask yourself, will you reach for a piece of candy that's just going to spike your insulin, or will you reach for a delicious, scientifically proven prescription for your bones? The choice is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.